You're very relaxed there.
I'm relaxed.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report Express Q&A. Questions and answers. Damian Nelson sitting alongside David Hero, and we are ready to dig right into your emails. And our first one comes from Brandon, who says, do you think the Wolfpack, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, and Sean Waltman will team up back in TNA?
Never.
Scott Hall's got some challenges.
Never. Scott Hall, X-Pac, not only did they burn the bridge, they blew up the bridge.
Will Raven return to TNA or WWE? Is the question.
I've heard that Raven has done real well in TNA in the past, but I really don't see him ever going back to.
He's getting up there,
WCW.
and I'm not sure if he is as significant as he was back around the end of ECW.
He's
going
balding.
into TNA.
The dreads are balding out.
Thank you very much for that email. Next one comes from Martin Winter. Martin says, just wanted to bring up a point on Mike Knoxx. Last time you talked about the most underrated superstar, and I think Mike Knoxx is like that. Although he's quite big and looks like he can't even move, he's agile and quick in the ring and does an awesome sell job and can work with great wrestlers such as Morrison and Finlay. And you saw recently on SmackDown and SmackDowns before. I think he should get more spotlight. I really like his wrestling skills. What do you think about that? I'm sorry, I've tried. I just can't.
Mike Knoxx.
I can't get behind Mike Knoxx.
He reminds me of Big John Studd. Big guy, kind of relevant. He'll have some good big man matches. But at the end of the day, we're talking about the guy that he wrestled that night.
Very well put. Martin Winter, thank you very much for that email. Now, next email comes from Donald Harv, who says...
Sounds like Favre.
It's spelled that way as well. Who do you think will be the guest host of Raw when Raw comes to Madison Square Garden in November? Really, this is just darts at a dartboard. No clue. I'm not sure if anyone can be as good as Al Sharpton was.
Yeah. I'm going to say Bret Hart at Madison Square Garden.
Rumors are out there.
He's mentioned
he hasn't
wants to go
squelched
back
those
there.
rumors that he's going to come back to WWE. There is an evolving storyline on SmackDown. If you haven't picked up on what's going on Smackdown, Teddy Long continues to say that he did what he was advised to do as it pertains to screwing over The Undertaker at the pay-per-view at what was it? I forget the names of them now because they keep changing them. Breaking Point.
Breaking Point.
And a lot of people are speculating, and I think there might be some relevance or some validity to this, that Bret Hart is the one who gave that order.
Really?
And that's what a lot of people
I don't
are saying.
think Bret's going to come to SmackDown, though.
Well, Bret's not going to wrestle. Let's clear that up right now.
He's going to wrestle Vince McMahon.
Wait, you said
WrestleMania.
he can't wrestle. He's
you know
beyond
what?
that.
If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But if I'm right, I'm going to be a genius. Okay?
He's concussed. He had a stroke. I just don't think he's going to get back in the
Roddy
ring.
Piper's had both hips replaced.
Okay.
Right?
You say Bret Hart, I say I don't know. Which show has the better main events, Donald continues to say. Raw, SmackDown, ECW, Superstars, or TNA Impact? And I never really thought about this, but I would have to say my answer would be SmackDown.
Well, it's either...
It's inconsistent, each show, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's either CM Punk on SmackDown or it's Randy Orton on Raw.
Or John Cena.
Or Kofi Kingston on Superstars. It's all the same. It doesn't make a difference.
They're all equal as
They're
far as
all
their main
equal,
event delivery.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody might pop here and there.
I will say this. When they did the John Cena Gauntlet main event, that was well done.
In what degree was it well done?
Because nobody got buried.
But Cena should have.
They kept, well, with the exception of Cena at the end, all of a sudden becoming Superman. But leading up to that point, it was very well done.
I'll give you that.
That's all you're going to give me is that?
Thank you, Donald, for that email. Next one comes from a YouTube user by the name of DragonX05. The subject is Hulk Hogan. When you say Hulk Hogan made the WWE and WCW, I don't think that to be true. You had Vince McMahon and Eric Bischoff that made Hulk Hogan. Now, what we said was, and this is in reference to an express from a couple of weeks back where we talked about whether or not Hogan made WCW as he made WWE, and the reason that he may have had for considering going to TNA Wrestling, which would be to make that company. Yes, Vince McMahon and Eric Bischoff played a substantial role, but who is the public figure that made those two companies? It's Hulk Hogan.
We've had this before. I will say this. Hulk Hogan needed Vince McMahon to become a big-name player. But Hulk Hogan did not need Eric Bischoff for WCW.
But without Eric Bischoff, he wouldn't have been in WCW.
No, Ted Turner wanted Hulk Hogan. Ric Flair wanted Hulk Hogan. Bischoff had nothing to do with that.
This email goes on to say, and watch a shoot interview that Bret Hart did. He said that Hogan was to drop the title at SummerSlam 93 to Bret, but Hogan did not want to do so. And I know Damien thinks Bret is pure evil. Well, that's why Hogan dropped the title to Yokozuna at King of the Ring 1993. He was on his way out, and there was all kinds of turmoil and whatnot going on. And apparently, though, Dave, and I don't know what the truth is, you may know, but there's controversy surrounding that main event ending at WrestleMania 9. Remember when Hogan actually became the champion? Bret Hart versus Yokozuna was the main event. Hogan was sort of given the opportunity to be the title.
Well,
be the champion.
What they were doing is they wanted to give Yokozuna a bigger push. Yeah, fine. Yokozuna can beat Bret Hart. That's great. But if he beats the immortal Hulk Hogan, it just makes Yokozuna look like that much more of a monster.
You know what I still fear? Yokozuna's leg drop.
Oh. God rest his soul. Thank God you'll never have to find that out.
Charles Dankert sends this in. With Ed Ferreira being added to TNA's creative team, do you guys think it would be a great idea to bring in Paul Heyman?
Paul Heyman to work with Vince Russo and Ed Ferreira?
Not sure that would go so well.
Oh, never work. Paul Heyman is doing great on his own. Heyman Hustle and other projects he has working on. I really do think he is done with wrestling.
A brilliant mind in the business. Jim Cornette's a brilliant mind in the business. I'm not sure if anyone has ever said Vince Russo was a brilliant mind in the business.
Vince Russo did great when he had boundaries. When he had guys like Vince McMahon, and Jim Ross and Jim Cornette working with him with the ideas. Vince Russo had great ideas, but sometimes they had to reel him back in.
And Ed Ferreira, obviously, is a part of the TNA production team. They haven't not really said he's part of the creative team, but he's got writing experience, not just from Duckman, but some other things he's done, and obviously knows how to put Russo's ideas to paper to make a show flow. Sort of.
We'll see. I mean, they got the next, 3 months to figure it out?
At most, yeah. Chuck goes on to ask, what are your guys' feelings on WWE trying to get Kanye West? Rumors are that he's been offered $10 million to come in and be a part of World Wrestling Entertainment.
I will say this, if Kanye West shows up on Raw for the $10 million, I'm done watching it. Serious.
Come on.
A guy like him.
Come on. You're never going to be done watching it.
You know what? I'll watch TNA. I'll watch Dragon Gate. I will not watch whatever brand Kanye West is on.
Huh. You hate him that much?
Yeah.
I think it's a spawn of Satan.
Why would you reward a guy with $10 million for being a jack?
Good point. Final email of today comes from Donnie. Do you think Jeff Hardy has any chance in TNA or WWE again after the drug bust?
Absolutely. Without a doubt. The guy makes too much money. He sells too much merchandise. The fans love him. Put it this way. Stone Cold Steve Austin was accused, and I'm not too sure if he's even convicted of beating Deborah, right?
Well, then there was the car chase.
Yeah. He was a wife beater. And you want to know something? Steve Austin comes out, and he gets one of the biggest pops of the night. People forgive and forget.
I was watching the SmackDown 10th Anniversary DVD, which is actually a very good DVD, and there was a clip of Austin at some point in there, and someone had a sign in the front row that said, Austin 316 says, I just beat my wife.
It wasn't blotted out?
Right, exactly.
Wow.
They didn't put the blur stick on that one. Thank you for that email. Thank you for your emails. And if you want to be a part of this program, you can go ahead and send your email to comments@pwrshow.com. And go ahead and go to pwrshow.com and click on the Contact Us link. Also, we're on Twitter. Follow the show on Twitter. Our Twitter name is PWR Show. And you can get the video and audio podcast of the Pro Wrestling Report on iTunes. Just go to pwrshow.com and click those links. It'll take you right to the subscribe, function of iTunes to go ahead and get those shows dropped immediately to your iPod as they become available. For the man they call Meathead, for the cause, for David Hero, this is Damian Nelson saying thank you for tuning in to the Pro Wrestling Report Express. We'll see you again soon.